Patience is wanting to get angry, but choosing to be understanding instead. For 80 to 90% of your students, setting clear expectations and having consistent consequences is going to be enough to keep that classroom managed. But sometimes you're gonna have some students where that just doesn't work. So in this video, we're gonna talk about what to do with middle school students that are extremely challenging and really defiant. The first thing you want to do is keep the expectations consistent, but be flexible on the activities. The reason why is because you want to make sure that whatever expectations you have for the class remain for the whole entire class. Because if you start allowing students to get away with things, then people are going to start saying that your system is flawed and they're not going to want to fall in line because some students can get away with things. Why can't I? So let me give you an example. Imagine that you have an expectation that you are productive in class. Most students, they're going to fall in line. They're going to do the expectation. And let's say somebody falls asleep in class. Well, that's falling short of the expectation because that's not being productive. Well, a normal student, let's say maybe a Miles, a good student, maybe they accidentally fall asleep. And when you talk to Miles, you give Miles a warning, or you give Miles a silent lunch, or you give Miles a loss of a privilege, and then they get back on track. But you may have this extremely defiant student. Let's call her a Megan. Maybe you have a Megan in your class that's completely defiant and she doesn't do her work and she doesn't do the things she's supposed to do. Whenever you give a consequence, it doesn't work. It just makes her even more upset. You're going to have to do something a little bit different. But you still want to name that the expectation is still the same. You have to let that be known in front of the rest of the class, or else they're going to think that Megan's just getting away with things and they're going to say that's not fair. So if Megan were to fall asleep in class, maybe you announce to the class, well, that Megan is making her decision. All right, she's sleeping in class. We know that that's falling short of the expectation. So Megan, I want to meet with you during lunch. I want to meet with you after school or whatever it is to make sure you get these notes that you missed. You need to make sure that the rest of the class, even though they see that the consequence is different. Well, if I were to do that, you would give me a silent lunch right away. Even though the consequence is different, they need to know that the consequence happens. They need to know that something did happen and that is not okay. Because that's what's going to keep them in line. Like, okay, they're not getting away with it. Their consequence just looks different. And you can have that conversations with students saying everybody is different. Everybody needs something different to be successful. My goal is to help you get what you need. So I'm going to give you what you need in order to help you be successful. And I'm going to give Megan what she needs too. Now, this gets really tough, right? How do you continue to think about different ideas to get through with these students? Don't worry, I got some more coming for you today. But I want to remind you that a quote that I heard before is that patience is wanting to get angry, but choosing to be understanding instead. I want to get angry at the fact that Megan's sleeping in my class. I want to get angry at the fact that she's defiant with everything I do. I want to get angry that when I look at her, she looks away and doesn't wave at me. I want to get angry at these things, but I understand that there are some things in her life, that there's some trauma, that there's something that's going on that is allowing her to act the way that she does. And I'm not going to get angry, but I'm going to understand and try to figure out how we can break through. The next thing you want to do is try to connect with their grown-ups. And a lot of times we start assuming that in these situations that the grown-ups aren't going to do anything, that parents aren't going to care, that foster parents aren't going to do anything. But even if they don't, even if you try it and they don't do anything, the behaviors don't change, the grown-ups of that student still needs to understand what's going on in class and how you're trying to help. So even if it feels like that's the person that you don't want to talk to because they always are loud, it's always hard to have that communication, that conversation with them, it's still okay to talk to that parent. And you should make sure that you're communicating with them and letting them know what's going on and how you're helping. Today, Megan fell asleep in class. And I just want to let you know that I met with her during lunch to get the notes that she missed. You also want to make sure that you share your vision with both the grown-ups and the child. Sharing your vision, remember, we said that the vision is what you want to be true for 100% of your students. So if I'm sharing my 100% vision with the students, like, listen, I just want to make sure that everybody's the best version of themselves. That goes for Miles, that goes for Megan, that goes for everybody. I want to make sure you're the best version of yourself. That may look different for every single person, but I'm not going to stop until I make sure that you get what you need in order to grow. And I'm going to be with you every step of the way. That alone may not be enough to turn them around. You got to think they've been going for 12, 13, 14 years hearing that they're annoying, hearing that they're bad, hearing that they're not good enough. So no one time of you saying that you care about them is going to turn it around. But it's important that they hear that they're not a lost cause. It's important that they hear that you're on their team. And it's important that they feel that everything that you're doing is trying to get them back on track so that they can ultimately be the best version of themselves. Going along with that, the next tip is to tell them what they are, not what they're not. Don't tell them that they're not bad, right? Don't tell them that they're not dumb. right? What I want you to do is tell them the things that they actually are. Imagine if you were dating somebody and they said, man or girl, you are not ugly. Like that's not gonna win me over, you know what I'm saying? It's different though when they say you are beautiful. That's a whole different type of feel. So when we're talking to students, don't tell them you are not a bad kid. You just made a bad decision. No, rather say you made a mistake, but everybody does. But greats learn from their mistakes and they move forward. And I know that you're great. This one is tough, but make sure that you allow them to find their person, even if it's not you. I had to realize I'm not gonna get through to every Megan. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. And that's okay. I fully believe, I love this quote. Fun fact, the reason why I started teaching is because I felt like I didn't have that person in the building my whole career. A lot of people teach because they want to be like a teacher that they had. I feel like I never had that person. And one quote that I love is that everybody should have the person whom they can tell the truth to when asked, how are you? And you may not be that person for everybody. So maybe to Megan, I say, all right, do you need to take a time and go see Miss Pierce? Go talk to Miss Pierce, go spend some time with her, right? And I have to realize that maybe I can't get through to her. Maybe I'm not the one. So yes, I'm still gonna have to teach you math this whole year, but in those moments when you are feeling anxiety, or in those moments when you're being extremely defiant and I can't break through as to why, maybe I'll let you go talk to Miss Pierce and see how if she can calm me down or see what's going on. Being okay with the fact that it's not me that's solving that problem. Being okay with the fact that she found her person in the building and that it was somebody else, but ultimately it got her the help that she needed. And that's what this is all about. One of my favorite tips is to help them see success. A lot of times students are defiant because they're low. You've seen that. Sometimes they're really low in terms of academics, or sometimes they're high and they're bored, whatever it is. But a lot of times it's because they're low. What they need to do is see success. Again, they keep hearing they're bad. They keep hearing they're dumb. They keep feeling like a failure. Help them to see success, because that's gonna allow them to want to remain in your class or to want to continue to grow. I remember one time I was being observed, and it was actually for my teacher of the year observation, and they were coming in and they were recording me standing in the back of the classroom, and I had this one student, let's just stick with the name Megan, and Megan was in the class, and everybody knows that Megan is defiant, Megan is a difficult student, and Megan is low. Everybody knows that. So I'm calling and I'm randomly calling students, and I always use a randomizer so that students' names are randomly called, and it lands on Megan. As I'm teaching my 8th grade lesson about Pythagorean theorem, I'm talking to students about the hypotenuse. I'm talking to students about, is this A squared plus B squared? We're finding the square root of like 35. We got an irrational number. So we're doing all these types of things, and then the name lands on Megan. And then I look to the back of the room and I say, Megan, for what shape does the Pythagorean theorem work? And everybody got quiet. And even the person who was recording me was like, you gonna call on Megan now? Like, while we're doing your observation? Everybody knows that any other teacher would have avoided that situation. It's like, right now, in the midst of your observation, you gonna call on Megan? I said, Megan. And then she looked up and said, a triangle? And then everybody in the class started clapping like, yeah. And I popped over to another student, what type of triangle? They said, right triangle. I went back to Megan, she repeated, right triangle, right? And then it was a win, but just helping Megan see success. Honestly, that's one of my highlights of teaching. The fact that I didn't move on to a different student, but allowed that person to see success. Asking a question that I knew that she could answer and allowing her to see success and feel smart. That's what it's all about. So allow them to see success. And then, of course, we'll talk about this one briefly, but build relationships. It's all about building relationships. That's the one that we talk about the most. So find out what Megan likes. Maybe she likes to cook. Maybe I would challenge Megan to a French toast bake-off and see mine is going to be better, but maybe I would just do that just to see what it's like, right? Just to kind of build that relationship. Building relationships, have fun with it. Try to connect over things that you both enjoy. And I think that you can be great. If you put all these tips into practice, you can start moving the needle with that really difficult child and make them and come onto your side, and makes it a little bit easier to deal with. So I don't know everything. Comment down below. Pursue excellence moment. What's your favorite way to engage a difficult or defiant student? In the next video, we're gonna talk about what to do when you're feeling overwhelmed. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that. But in the meantime, check out my favorite classroom management tips. This is gonna work for that 80 to 90% that I was talking about earlier. Thank you for watching to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.